House of Dead Divided by Connor Soncran. The Dead family is dysfunctional to say the least. Milkman, the protagonist of the novel, has many sticky situations throughout his life that have been caused by both his mother and father. The first thing that has to be said is the fact that when Ruth was first pregnant with Milkman's sisters, Macon II had been against Ruth's father delivering his children. Both Macon and Dr. Foster himself believed that Ruth had too close of a relationship with her father. Macon said that a midwife was good enough to deliver him who would be good enough to deliver his children. Still, Dr. Foster delivered Ruth's children up until his death, where the conflict between Macon and Ruth erupts, which will drag Milkman into a continuing war between his mother and father. The first scene where we see the effects of this war between Ruth and Macon is made early in the novel. Macon and Ruth are sitting at the dinner table, and Ruth asks Macon if he likes the centerpiece, which is one of the things that Ruth has taken pride when she had taken care of her father. Macon completely passes over it and complains of the mediocrity of the meal. The coldness that Ruth gets from Macon shows how their entire relationship will continue on into their lives, even when Milkman is conceived. Before Milkman was born, Macon tried to have Ruth abort the baby. This is another example of the war that he fought with Ruth. Macon has no desire to father another child with Ruth because he had no attraction to her. In truth, he is attracted more to his money, and even finds the most comfort in touching the symbol of his wealth, the keys to his many homes for rent. Milkman was raised carefree and didn't have to deal with much conflict. He was aware of the fact that his mother and father had not been very close, but marriage wasn't done because of love at the time. It was done to increase the placement in society. Macon II had married Ruth solely because she was the daughter of the wealthiest black man in town. Dr. Foster, although he appeared against the marriage of his daughter to Macon, is relieved to be rid of his daughter's uncomfortable behavior. Finally, Ruth and Macon's animosity towards each other is passed on to Milkman. One day, Macon tells Milkman of Ruth's strange relationship with her father. He tells the story of how one day when he was coming home from work after hearing that Dr. Foster had passed on, when he went upstairs to Dr. Foster's room, he found Ruth next to her father. She yelled that he needed to clean up to even think of entering the room, so he took a bath and went to the door. And when he returned, he claimed to have seen Ruth lying next to her father's dead body, completely naked, kissing him, and even had his fingers in her mouth. This horrifying image was given more credibility with the fact that Ruth's behavior with her father early in life was less than regular. She had continued on activities that had brought her comfort in childhood well into her teenage years, which, as previously said, brought great discomfort to her father. Milkman would continue to have this image of his mother in his head until further on in his life he would be able to have her side of the story. One day, Milkman decides to follow his mother on one of her excursions during the night. After a few times of losing her, Milkman finally is able to figure out that the train is to Fairfield Heights. After the train ride, he follows his mother to a cemetery where he waits outside. Some time passes and he decides to confront his mother as she leaves. She is shocked to see him, but after a minute she tells him that she was visiting her father. It was the only other thing that comforted her in her life, after she lost the one which was nursing Milkman. Milkman relays the story that his father had told him, and Ruth then says that she will tell him the truth of her relationship with her father. Ruth goes on to tell Milkman of how his father had been a terrible man to her for most of her life after her father died. She took it solely because she said she needed to care for her babies. She even says that Macon had even gone as far as threatening to kill her. She's responded with threats of going to the police about what he was saying. Neither happens, and is said that it was probably because Macon cared too much for Dr. Foster's money. It isn't surprising to her that Macon would tell the Milkman such a thing. She goes to tell him that on his deathbed she sat next to Dr. Foster and kissed his fingers, which were the only thing that hadn't withered away with the sickness that he had faced before his death. Because of the greed that Macon II lives with, the information he passes on to his son Milkman, who in the first place hadn't wanted, should be taken with a grain of salt. He tries to convince Milkman that his mother was some kind of sick person, when in truth she just loved her father very much. The same could not be said about her husband, who had been mistreating her from the day her father died. He takes all of the things that made her happy in life until she only has two left. One is ruined, and the other isn't revealed to us until later in the novel. It shows that although he has died, Ruth can still find comfort in sitting next to her father's grave and just speaking with him. It's a time that she had been deprived from her husband.